Thank you and welcome to the show this morning. The topic this morning is from the plantation to the prison and historical criminalization of the African American male. And of course we have with us to talk about a study that she has been a part of dealing with the economic, political, and social situation of the African American male from the plantation to today's prison. Is Dr. DBurris-Kitchen. And of course, Dr. Kitchen, let me welcome you to the show this morning and tell you again how delighted we are to have you, because I think that you were with us earlier and you gave us an excellent understanding of the African American situation. And we also might add that you are the chairperson of the Department of Criminal Justice at Tennessee State University. And so let's start this show off, Dr. Kitchens, by Burris-Kitchens, by having you to give us some information about your background, your education, and some of the things that were important that eventually led us to you this morning. And then we'll talk about the historical criminalization of the African American male.
Okay, well, I grew up in Indianapolis, Indiana, and went to Indiana University for my undergrad and finished up at Indiana University in Fort Wayne. And while I was in high school, I just knew a lot of people who were dealing in drugs, and the majority of the people who were dealing in drugs were people who were white, and I was just always intrigued, especially being a young adult in the early 80s, about the war on drugs and it being focused mostly on African Americans. So as I pursued my career in sociology, I went on to get my master's degree at Ball State University and my doctorate at Western Michigan University. It was always my desire to figure out why we assumed that the majority of drug use was in the African American community. And my dissertation was actually titled Sisters in the Hood, and I was looking at female involvement, African American female involvement in the war or in the drug trade and joining gangs and setting up their own gang cultures and things like that. So the reason why I really pursued my education in sociology with a focus on criminology is because the war on drugs just has always intrigued me, especially coming of age in the 80s when, you know, that was the primary time at which the war was an all-out assault against primarily African American communities. And I did my graduate work in Michigan, where of course the all-out assault was taking place in full force in Michigan itself. So and then I went to Los Angeles to teach at a private liberal arts college out of grad school. Taught there for 7 years, did some more research, was more interested in the Hispanic culture and the Hispanics criminalization at that point, because it was a predominantly Hispanic area and so was the university. So I kind of looked at, okay, how are Latinos criminalized as well? And I taught ethnic relations, which gave me a good opportunity to dive into kind of the histories of different ethnic groups and how they have been criminalized and treated and stereotyped throughout the American history and the American justice system. And then, of course, I came to TSU in 2001, and being a predominantly African-American university, I got back to pursuing my interest on the history of the criminalization of African-Americans, and have since done a couple of publications, and one in an African-American handbook that was edited by Dr. Robert Hampton, who's one of our colleagues at Tennessee State University. And I just finished up this work that you discussed earlier in the introduction that I just submitted for publication. I'm not sure how that's going to come out yet.
Well, let's look at that, Dr. Burris-Kitchen. We talk about from plantation to the prison. Let's give our audience some ideas, and I'm not exactly sure how much time we have in this first segment yet. Let's give our audience some idea about the criminalization of Africans during the slavery period, on the plantation situation.
Well, in order to really justify the mass enslavement of peoples from Africa, and even to deny or to allow indentured service status for a lifetime in this country after the John Punch case, I think it was, we had to actually have a religious explanation, because at that time it was before the Enlightenment period, so religion was really the foundation of justifying and legitimizing the treatment of different groups. So through the religious justification, through the curse of Ham, we basically, European Americans said, well, African Americans aren't as human, they they have to be forced to work because they're basically inherently lazy. They're non-Christian, so they're obviously evil or different or bad. So the bifurcation of good and evil with white and black came to play during slavery, and I think that continues to come into play throughout American
Okay, very good. And of course, well, let's take time for this first commercial break, and then we'll come back and we'll allow you not only to talk about that as a means of criminalization, but how that progressed and give us some numbers in reference to it.
Absolutely.
Of course, we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break.